The smock, uniquely designed fabric of Ghana that has survived several generations. The smock, the love for it has traversed political and ethnic barriers. Can we say the smock deserves the appellation costume of the nation? The history of man's civilization is the history of his realization that it is more dignifying to cover one's nudity. This differentiates him from other species of being. Thus the genesis of clothing, and through the ages it has gone through diverse treatments to even be a yardstick for assessing one's level of civilization and even education to some extent. In Ghana, the smock is one of several clothing designs that has become very popular. The smock traces its roots from northern Ghana. Like other types of clothing, the smock traces its beginnings from the tree bark.
Biratanga, kakantangala, kakasazu kakatenga, dikambu kompola, bawa pole zanzazata pola pira. The
tree, of course, has always had a good linkage with the development of woven textiles in Africa. The smock is no exception, and it manifests in the ingenuity of the African in exploiting resources of nature to his economic, cultural, and social benefit. Perhaps the cultural and traditional significance of smocks present a most interesting side of the attire.
Smocks are a very, very important attire in the Ashanti traditional system. We believe one of our warrior kings, King or Otumfuo Okunwia Sekwajo I, who reigned in the early 18th century, who was the nephew of Nana Kusi Obodo. During his reign, for the first time, Ashantis fought in broad daylight, and that is the appellation that goes with his name, Okunwia Otumfuo Sekwajo I. He is one of the first Ashanti kings to be associated with Muslims and warriors from the north. So it is believed that it was during his time that smocks became very common usage in the Ashanti kingdom.
The Ashantis usually say they came from the whole. It's not possible. They came from somewhere and lived in the present Gonja area for 200 years before they moved into the forest area. And therefore, as you know, the Gonjas are Guans. And most of the Gonja, the other tribal groups that live in the Gonja area were like the Efutus in Wuniba, the Ewutus, the Nchumurus, the Anums, the Lattes. And so they all lived in the current Gonja area. That's why they are Guans, and some of the words, in fact, are the same. You know, you would see that the word for water is Nchu, the word for house is Ebu, and so on. And it's general to all the Guan-speaking people that I've mentioned.
Indeed, there is a quarter in Yendi, or the fighting gang of the Dagbon state. They are called the Kambonse, which means the Ashantis. So there was that historical link.
When they lived together, in those days, the Gonjas acquired some of their Akan culture. And that is why we use the talking drums. And the drum language of Gonja is in Akan. Up to today, if you go to any Gonja palace and they sound the talking drums, everything is in Akan.
The North were credited with a lot of charms and amulets and protective powers, to ward off evil spirits. And the smoke used to be the attire of the chiefs. And, in the North, they would put up 3 or 4 of them at a go.
The 3 piece is made up of the pantalon, the dansik inside, then the banner and the parp. Then you are really fully dressed as a chief.
With the fusion of the 2 peoples, surely there were some cross-cultural influences from one onto the other. And because the Ashantis, we were of the belligerent type, we were always fighting, we needed a good deal of protective charms to help us fight our wars. So the smoke became adopted by our forefathers, our forebears, one for purely aesthetic purposes, and 2 for protective purposes, as an attire which is more handy and which makes you more versatile than putting on the cloth.
I cherish the smoke much because it makes me to feel proud of my party, to feel proud of my brethren from the north, to feel proud of my brethren from the west. I mean, there is Zima land, the Sefi land, and almost every tribe in Ghana, every traditional ruler uses the smoke. It has a meaning. Every traditional ruler, the war dress of the Asantehene is the smoke. The war dress of the Sefihene is the smoke. The war dress of the paramount chief of Adam, my traditional area, is the smoke. The war dress for the king of the guns is the smoke. So it casts across the land and it symbolizes strength, unity, and power for the Ghanaian.
The reverence accorded the smoke in some cultural settings is very high indeed.
In the installation of any Shanti cane, one very important itinerary on the list is the wearing of the Batakari Kese. That is the great smoke. And this smoke has over 300 talismans studded on it. And it's a symbol of the authority and the spiritual power that is associated with the occupation of the stool.
The Batakari Kese was the formal attire of the Asantehene for a war. But in times that wars became less frequent, it was used by the Asantehene at the time that at the time of his coronation, to prove to all that if he had to take to war, if he had to take the field in the battle, he was prepared to do that. But the field of battle in modern terms is the battle against poverty, the disease, want, battle against all the ills of society which now beset us. And he also wears it at the time that he is to perform the funeral of his predecessor.
We also have the smokes being used by our executioners. They come normally in the dyed smoke, usually in darkish brown, and the executioners with their painted faces and what have you also put on the smoke. They are people those days who used to take lives. Most of the smokes are over 300 years old. They are part of the materials and items that we inherit from the previous occupants of the stools.
Northern Ghana is reputed for smoke production. The resource material is cotton, which is grown mainly in the 3 northern regions of Ghana. Cotton is harvested and spun. The yarn is then woven into strips of cloth, which is hand-sewn into the smock piece.
C'est la tempo nous la piela la yume bala mate machine dum la kabo nous soit pere nous la so machine dum la ya ta yela to ma se ban pe nous la le kelim pale se machine dum la ba pera so dans la machine la pierre kasonga an songa gi ba kelmota la yabdu maden la so to bota nuhla ama machine la ti pet engala double ti sampe se ti lima le duho le pe akata da lo ama nuhla inga ponde yabdu maden so to bakatam da yela ama ba wo an songa.
The white yarn can also be dyed with different colors from tree bark, roots, special sand, or leaves.
It's a local dye we have here. We have something called gara. This is a gara. Secondly, we have something called zata. There's another thing called kedi. Kedi look like an axe. When you see it, we burn it and then bring it here. And then gara, before you made a gara, you come here, there's an old one, you remove the water out and put the new one. After put the new one, then first of all, you have to put zata inside the hole. Secondly, then you put gara inside. Then you put kg, fourth, and then you have to use a stick, palming inside for some time. So when you look tired, or when you feel that the whole thing is mixed up, then you have to go and rest. And then the following day, you can come back, continue palming inside. And then the 3rd day, you have to leave it for 2 days. Then the 4th day, you have to come back and palm it. Then the whole thing will mix. Then you will see the water is changing to a different color. Like you see it has look like a green color. When it's coming to a green color, then you know that it's now coming to a beginning of dying.
We had a cotton ginnery in Polugu. If they were operating at its full capacity, the ginnery itself would be employing a lot of people. The product of the ginnery is ginned cotton. It has to go through another process before it becomes the yarn, and then with which we can weave the smock.
Today, a whole industry has come up, processing the cotton crop into raw materials that the textile factories need.
This region has a very good potential to sustain the cotton industry, and therefore the smoke manufacturers. If there's enough finance, the company can produce a lot of cotton that will benefit the textile industries as well as the smoke dealers. The land is there, the people are there. The only limitation is money. So I'm sure that if any organization, whether NGO or government, will support the cotton farmers to produce cotton, then the smoke dealers will be in good business. If they do not want to deal directly with the company, they can deal directly with the smoke dealers, where they will also have their farmers registered, and then the smoke dealers pay, they get access to funds to pay the cotton farmers to produce the smoke for them. The land is very good, vegetation is very good, weather is very good, and smoke can easily be a very good source of income for our farmers if the cotton farming is sustained here. Cotton production, if it's sustained, it will be a serious poverty alleviation source.
Cotton production, spinning, weaving, and smoke production has become a big industry, providing employment opportunities for many. The smoke is also exported to other parts of the world to earn foreign exchange.
After the 81 coup, the coup leaders, especially His Excellency Fly Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, initially was not also relying on the smoke. But due to the simplicity, the variety, the durability, and the all-weather nature of the smoke, they also found it very useful, and he started using the smoke. But when he became an elected president, he wore it when the president of the US, Bill Clinton, and his wife visited Ghana. He wore it at a number of UN conferences, and that gave a serious leverage to the marketing of the smoke internationally, and it gave a heavy boost to the cotton industry in the north.
There's a big potential for it, and now that we are talking about the presidential initiatives, it is one thing that I wished that would come on the discussion board, that people in the north can identify with it and be helped to be able to produce it in large quantities. We are not going to look for investors to invest in heavy-duty machines in order to produce it. Anybody can sit on a veranda and produce a smoke material. So as for its commercial value, I think we are doing a lot of disservice to the nation by not promoting the wearing of the smoke material.
The smoke design is receiving a good dose of more creative innovations, offering the market various types and colors of the popular attire. Dansika, Bana, Karkote, Kurilane, Libre, and Mose. These are but a few types of smoke.
It can be used in making suits, skirt suits for both men and women, trouser suits for both men and women. You know, any design you want to put it in.
The smoke industry, unfortunately, is facing serious challenges with foreign textiles, but the manufacturers are undaunted.
The support we want is the NGOs. As for the government, well, I don't know what let me talk something. I don't know whether it's a politics way or whatever way, we don't know. Because right now, if it's an NGO, maybe one day we will get the assistance. But government, immediately he moved, that's all.
We want to plead for the president and also the government especially our ministers, to be wearing smock so that people, our culture will not go out. Though they can wear the suit, in case they want to show that they are also pure Ghanaians, they should wear smock because they know Ghanaians wear smocks. So this is what I want to plead for our government to also support us in advertising our smocks for international level.
The use of smocks over the years by top-level politicians in this country has gained immense regard for the attire. One could even say that the celebration of the independence of Ghana is incomplete if due recognition is not accorded the smock, which Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wore to declare Ghana's independence.
At long last, your beloved country is free forever. Our independence is meaningless unless it links up with the total liberation of the African continent.
The role of the smock in our political history is very significant, very important. And I believe Nkrumah wore the smock because of some historical antecedent. You know, before independence, the northern sector of the country was only a protectorate. It wasn't part of the colony. And therefore, when independence was being given, the northern part, which had been the kind of buffer zone for the British administration, where they reserved the people over there for menial jobs and for the military and the security sector, Nkrumah wanted to change this. However, there was a big opposition from the place. SD Dombo, Jato Kaleo, and others were the people who were really holding the north.
You try to put on behavior, you try to put on apparels, you try to speak a language that can get these supporters to your side. And the smock is one of the instruments we use.
You would see that they were wearing northern smock because they wanted to let the northern people or the northern territories feel that they were not being alienated. They were part of the Gold Coast, the Ghana, the new Ghana which was coming. I strongly suspect that it was a real political ploy to bring the North into the CPP fold.
Those who jump up and take something and put over themselves and call it a smoke because they want to win political power do not know what they are talking about, because the smoke has various variants.
The politicians definitely discovered that maybe of the various costumes that we had, the simplest one for a politician was the smoke.
Politicians who want to use the smoke as a means of endearing themselves to Ghanaians should choose the right smoke and wear them at the right time. And I particularly will advise senior citizens who are also politicians to, desist from wearing the dancing, the sleeveless smock in public places, as a formal dress. It is not. It is not.
The smock, the costume of the nation, is by every measure helping in Ghana's positive image building globally.
In terms of adaptability and flexibility, I would say that smock is quite popular. From the point of view that our leaders before independence used that as a mark of nationalism.
Today, the smock has taken a center stage as a national costume, because there is hardly any political occasion, there is hardly any economic occasion where the smock does not feature.
There's so much potential for making the smock a national costume. It is very, very unique.
The smock is definitely a costume of this country, and straight from independence, this was manifested by the founding fathers of our country. At the polo grounds, when Nkrumah declared the independence of this country, he was in smock with his colleagues. And since then, smock has been identified, accepted by all as a costume of this country.
It is indeed one great area we are developing as a nation that trumpets our culture and traditional value.
Akurwa kanga belwene, asarwa kanga belwene. Mbaya zabrete komazinyai.